how much do we look to the little self of the ego, and how much do we rely on the infinite self of God? And the Gita helps to clarify this. Sri Krishna tells us, everyone in this world whose life is glorious or prosperous or powerful, know that his achievement is but a little spark from the great sun of my effulgence. A little spark from the great sun of my effulgence. Every skill or blessing that we experience is not our own, but it comes from that infinite sun. And we are an infinitely small part of God's bliss. And yet they are the same substance. We are a spark of that sun. My mother would tell me that the first word I uttered as a child was no. I think I was asserting my willpower and saying, as children love to do, no, I won't do what you say. And Swami Kriyananda would say that the first years of a child's life are the will years, when they develop willpower as well as willfulness and develop the ego and become more and more independent of their parents. And gradually we become more self-reliant. Reliant on that little self, on the ego, on self-will. But sooner or later, that egoic self lets us down. We develop a skill, we prepare a wonderful report for a deal, and the deal falls through and we have a big loss. Someone that we have faith in betrays us. A loved one that we depend on dies. And then we are alone. And where do we turn? This is the question. Yesterday, we attended the cremation of a dear friend of ours. And during the ceremony, they would sprinkle water around in a circle around the body. And then they would hold the clay water pot, the empty pot, and let it fall. And it would smash. Just like the body, the temporary body that holds the soul for one brief incarnation is just as fragile as that water pot. Yoganandaji called it the bodily cage, and that the soul is a bird who flies out of the cage at death or at enlightenment and is at last free to soar. The most of the time that Daya and I were away until now, we were helping her elderly mother, who would often repeat herself. She wouldn't recall what day of the week it was or even how old she was. But she would be the first to laugh at her failing body or her failing mind. And the things that she did remember, that she did remind herself of, were the spiritual sayings that she would read every day, were the gratitude that she had for certain friends, for the loving, happy times that we had together. And it's like, her body is like all of us, is so fragile, like that water pot that sooner or later is going to break anyways. yet what she can take with her is that love that she's experienced, and that is what lasts. And for us too, we gradually acquaint ourselves with that higher self, that self with a big S, which is God's presence. And to find our way out of that cage of limitation, we need to follow those who have already gone in that direction, who already know the way out from this cage of limitation. And to attune ourselves to God, to the Guru, to those who are wiser than we are, until we have that wisdom for our own, and until we can rely only on that higher infinite self of God, on God alone. We attune ourselves through every positive thought, through seva, through satsang, through the music and words of the gurus, through spiritual environment. All of these little ways we keep ourselves attuned to that higher wisdom, so that more and more it becomes our reality, not all at once, but gradually, step by step. Yogananda Ji defines, once we have this wisdom, he defines this self-realization as simply being the knowing in all parts of body, mind, and soul that you are now in possession of the kingdom of God. God's omnipresence is your omnipresence. All you have to do is to improve your knowing. He said that man must do his best, of course. His best, however, will be crowned with success to the extent that he realizes that it isn't he, as a human being, who is acting, but God, who is acting through him, inspiring him and guiding him. The power that is in you is your own, but God-given power. Use it. God won't use it for you. The more you attune your will during activity to his infinite will, the more you will find his power and blessing strengthening you and guiding you in everything that you do.
Keshava mentioned that we went to the cremation of a very, very good friend yesterday, Meera Kandiwal, and it was very interesting to be there and see, how family members, how friends process the passing of a loved one. And it makes me ever more grateful for the spiritual path and for the teachings of our Guru and for this environment that our Guru, that Swami Kriyananda gave us in order to come together and learn these timeless teachings of India, of East and West, but not learn them just intellectually, but be able to imbibe them in every particle of our being. Because, an intellectual understanding that the soul will go on after the body leaves, after the precious body of our loved one is being cremated, it's not the same thing as intellectual knowing, as somehow in your soul, really understanding that this is the truth, and this is my life. This is the life of every soul that I know, every soul on the planet, that its source is in God, and that source cannot be severed. And for those of us who do have a practice of meditation, who are on a deep spiritual path, this faith, this understanding is what will help us go through all the difficulties of life. Surely losing a loved one is probably the most difficult aspect of our lives, or also our own bodies perhaps becoming sick or diseased or old, and we fear these things, we don't like these things, we don't like to talk about these things. But really, when the passing of a loved one is right in front of us, it's kind of where the rubber hits the road. What do I believe? What kind of faith in God do I have in who I am and who she is? And how do I get more of it? This reading that Keshava read, a reading from Krishna, from the Gita, and there's a corresponding reading, some of which we might have read last week. Did you do the reading last? So there is this parable from Jesus Christ about the vines and the branches, and I believe Keshava and Vasudha talked about that a bit last week, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. And basically what Christ is saying, and what the Guru is the source of God. What God is the source of all life. And if you are connected to that source, your spiritual happiness will not wither and fall away. You will be able to experience the peace, the power, the love, the bliss of God, of the great avatars, if you stay connected to that source. And if you think of like a tree outside, it's getting nourishment from the soil, from water, from sunlight. And if all the branches are connected to that trunk, then the branches will thrive. But if some branch says, no, I don't need the trunk, I'm good on my own, then what's going to happen to that branch? It's just going to die and fall away. So this little self-reliance versus higher self-reliance, it's that if we don't constantly reconnect to the source, or abide in that source, abide in God, experience his presence as often as we can. I mean, I can say in every moment, but we all know we forget. We forget during the day, and we forget in difficult times. But when we do remember, and when we experience that merging of consciousness, of love, of peace, of light in our meditation, then suddenly it's like, yes, I know. This is my knowing. I am improving my knowing every day in my meditation practice, which is why we take meditation so seriously. How can you abide in God's love without taking the time to get still and feel that love every day? Because if you skip days, if you skip a few days, then it's harder the third day, the fourth day to get back into that presence. If you skip a week, if you skip a year, it's probably an incarnation gone by. That's why if you've had the very, very, very good karma to come onto the spiritual path, to get into a true path and a true meditation, do not take that for granted. Do not let a day slip by without your daily tryst with God, as Yogananda would say. And the quote that they probably read last week, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it again, is, I am the vine and ye are the branches. So this is Christ speaking, in his oneness with God. Basically, God is saying, and Krishna could be saying it to us, Buddha could be saying it to us, I am the source and you are the branches, you are the disciples. You need to abide in me. Every branch I am the vine and you are the branches. Every branch that does not bear fruit, does not bear the fruit of meditation, of attunement with God, with the Guru, with these channels of the divine, if we are not bearing that fruit, that good fruit, then what happens in the vineyards is that the vintner will come and just cut that away. If it's not bearing fruit, it will just be cut away, which means that we will sort of lose our spiritual life. So that will take away. And every branch that does bear fruit, even that branch, he will trim with scissors so that it can bear more fruit. So what is that for us? Spiritual tests, they come all the time. Master had those tests. Swamiji had those tests. We all have those tests. If we are bearing the fruit of a life of meditation, if we are on a spiritual path, and we are feeling that peace that comes from practicing Hong Sa, if we are tuning into the Om vibration from practicing Om, if we're feeling that bliss of prana flowing through our spine that Kriya gives us, if we are experiencing these things, then it will show outwardly as a divine flow of grace flowing through us. So usually it affects our families. It affects those around us. Maybe we have a peaceful countenance and people come to us and say, please help me figure out this problem because you look peaceful, you're calm. Can you help me through this problem? And our relationships improve, and usually we're finding solutions to problems in our lives. Usually we are able to go through life with a ever-increasing contentment instead of trying to wonder, why is this happening to me? Why am I getting these tests? I can feel the joy and freedom of being with God and what that feels like. So grace flowing through our lives, divine grace operating in our lives. This is a sign of a devotee who is connected to the divine, connected to the source. So if very often, even new meditators, new on the spiritual path, suddenly start to feel a new grace in their life. But we must persist. Just because our life is a little bit better because we started meditating, it's also not enough. It's also not enough. Just because now we can find a parking place. And and now our mother is grateful and happy, all of this, it's not enough, because when one of our best friends leaves this body, is that enough that you can find the parking place? No, we have to be able to really understand in our heart, every particle of our being, that she is an Om, that I am an Om, that we are one, and that our other best friends that are having new grandchildren at the same day or week as our other best friend passes. What is that? This is a manifestation of Om coming through, and we can't be attached to that friend that's leaving any more than we can be attached to that baby being born, because these are manifestations of Om. We can do everything we can with faith, with love, to understand what is this soul that is born right now. Hear from God as a gift for us to guide, but not ours. Not ours. God's. And with that understanding that God is also flowing through that soul, and that soul cannot be separated from God, then we have no reason to fear for the health, for the life, of this baby, because this baby is God's and cared for in the power of Om. Jesus Christ, just before, don't mean to speak too much about Christ, but that was the quote that I was using. Just before he was crucified, he was with his disciples, and he said, people will know you are my disciples because of the love that's flowing through you, because of my grace that's flowing through you, God's grace flowing through you. That way, people will know you are my disciples, because you will love others as I have loved you. So the Guru loves us. So our job is to love others the way he loves us, which is unconditionally. Is he angry with us when we make mistakes? Does he reject us when we make mistakes, when we forget to think about him? No, because they realize also it's all Om. We are all one. How can we be angry at somebody when we are one with them? How can we blame people when we are one with them? And so he said, even though I will be gone and I'm leaving, I will send you the Comforter. And Master, our Guru, says the Comforter is Om. Merge in that vibration of Om. Because when we merge in, and this is, when Master would talk, when our Guru would talk to the public, he would speak about all kinds of deep spiritual teachings, but with the disciples, he was very quiet, and he would just say, get in tune, get in tune. Swami, same thing, when he started Ananda, just giving teachings all the time. Near the end of his life, just Be in tune with the Guru. Love the Guru. That's the bottom line. Because when we can be attuned to the consciousness, the infinite consciousness of God, of Divine Mother, of the Guru, our consciousness merges with them and it changes us. It changes our chakras, it changes our vibration. And suddenly we are not the same people. We may look the same, but our souls have changed. We have evolved. You know, the quote, one moment in the company of a saint can be a raft over the ocean of delusion, because in one moment they can change our vibration. This is why we attune our consciousness to that of the Guru, why we come to satsang, why we serve the Guru, why we love God, because all of those things that we do every day, they change us and we grow. And so as he said, by your love, people will know you are our disciples. So this is how the succession of disciples moves through this world and this age. And you think of how, Christ came to Babaji, who gave Kriya to Lahiri Mahashaya, who gave to Sri Yukteswar, who gave to Yogananda Ji, who went to the West, who started a revolution of meditation in the West. And then Swami Kriyananda and us and you. This is how divine light flows into the world through each of us. Not them, us. And it's our duty to be in tune with that vibration of Om, with that vibration of the source of all things. And that's how they transform us into what they are, who they are.